listed 3 comps and I took the very low end. But yeah, I agree to that.
Do you know when he sent that to you?
Her dad, his
Did he
dad,
what?
brother.
You know when he sent that to you? I found out.
Yeah,
I
and this
just need to know when he sent that.
1970.
I was included on the
We
email,
have
but
smaller amounts. We still have to draft and agree to
or if you can
the
forward it
plans
to me
and
right now, then I
we
can
still have to look at their plans
You know,
as
we
they
tried to make-
progress. So we're not in a huge rush. It's just they needed us to kind of agree in principle how they can move forward.
I really served that. So. But I like it. It's kind of like Adams. It's got that.
Send your details up, and then we'll come back again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did it in public
I
last
used to
time
go to
what
church
we
even
should
down
do,
there.
and now we can do the rest of it in private, and then bring it back to the board for final approval. And I told Anthony, we don't necessarily wait till next month, so we can do it Friday.
You can go.
I haven't seen her. I haven't seen that much. I've seen her.
And I'll
One
keep
was-
these guys in the
one
loop
was
whenever
from
we're ready.
on the right hand side.
Thank
In the corner, I think he.
Hey, thanks. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
There was a church on the hillside.
To an extent, but nothing to take away from us.
Yeah, and I think we're in a good spot.
I think it was younger. Friends of mine lived here. I was going to go to the armory or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Downtown. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Harrison.
Okay.
Well, we just have to, learn and be careful, and that's what we're doing, so. Tony, just to let you know, we're not gonna discuss this tonight, I appreciate it, we'll kind of take this and take a look at it, but we're not gonna call you to the podium and talk about anything.
It's great. Otherwise, we weren't getting it.
Yeah, but we get to decide, and we're.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
It's fine. Well, he's not going to be here, so I'll take his copy. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. That sounds simple.
But it almost seems like.
You can listen to music. You don't have to get in there and be hammered. Had the same problem.
This meeting. We were prepared. Oh, thanks.
Mel? Hey, Mel.
Come on.
All the way. It's time.
Matt, are we good? I'm good. Does it?
That's as good as it's going to get.
Oh, gosh.
It's time for the
I'd like to call this June 10th, 2019 Redevelopment Commission to order.
Yeah,
Calling
okay.
to order.
Director. I said
Are they-
it's on.
Says they're on. I can only speak so loud. I'm sorry.
All right, Director Brian Messmore.
Here.
Chairman Mel Davis.
Here.
Vice Chairman Randy Abner.
Here.
Secretary Kevin Schaefer.
Here.
Member Owen Cross.
Here.
Member Paul Seymour Sr.
Present.
School Board Member Brian Johnson is absent, and City Attorney Del Weldon.
Here.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Any announcements?
I just have one announcement. It was late for the agenda, but Mr. Jimmy Roberts is here this evening over there. He's got his hand up. He is will be doing his best to have a proposal for 359 Arch at the next meeting. So I told him I'd
Okay.
give him a chance to say hey, and he just couldn't get it all together for this meeting.
Is that all?
That's all.
Okay. Financial report?
As of June 3rd, 2019, the balance for redevelopment is $2,597,970.24. And after monies towards projects, it's $1,508,475.14.
Thank you. New business, Reedy Financial.
Good evening. So tonight we're going to go through our presentation really quick. It's a Tif Impact update. So, and we'll go through the reporting requirements here in a minute, but you'll see that in last year, legislation was passed to basically invite all overlapping units to a Tif allocation area to a meeting of the RDC to basically present on the impact that Tif has on those overlapping units. So we'll go through this as best we can. I apologize for the limited screen. We had a little bit of a IT hiccup, but we're going to make it through here. So if you have any questions, you can either email me, call me, or ask me afterwards, or just, you may shout out whatever you want to do. So basically, what a TIF RDC, how it all works. Basically, an economic development area is created. So an economic development area is basically an area that is hoped to have increased employment opportunities, attract businesses, and retain and expand businesses within the area. So within that economic development area, there's an allocation area that is created. So what TIF is new growth inside that allocation area, new growth in the assessed value of that allocation area. And that growth will provide revenue for projects benefiting the area, benefiting the economic development area. So why Created Tif Districts? Well, there's several different reasons. It helps attract capital investment to the area, attract new residents to the community, promotes economic development in an otherwise stagnant area. It allows redevelopment to be self-funded through assessed value growth, provides a financing tool for redevelopment, and issuance of debt on that TIF revenue is less restrictive and does not require petition remonstrance or referendum processes. So here are the reporting requirements for the RDC. So you'll see several. It's kind of hard to see the bold one, but it's the second to last one. It says prior to July 1st, presentation to all overlapping taxing units. And this requirement includes that we report on the RDC's budget, the long-term plans for the allocation area, and the TIF impact on each of the taxing units. So here's a pretty easy graph to grasp what a TIF is and how it kind of works. So the bottom green area is what you're going to consider your base AV, and base AV is basically existing AV at the time the TIF is established. So it's the percentage of what doesn't meet the incremental AV classification. That gets a little confusing, but basically once the TIF is established, whatever the assessed value of that area is, that money is going to the base units. Moving forward, as time progresses, as you'll see incremental AV, what is composed of incremental AV, as those things occur and growth is realized, that growth becomes incremental AV, but the base AV will still go to the overlapping units. So basically, that's how, you'll see incremental AV, it goes straight to the RDC to pay for costs, where in the green it says the base AV goes to the overlapping taxing units in the area. At the end of the TIF, all of that AV is released and then all becomes base. So here is the main fund for the, the Downtown Entertainment District. We show our beginning cash balance of the year at $372,591. Our total revenues, which are strictly TIF revenue collections this year, and then below is the spending. And as of right now, in this main fund, there hasn't been any spending. Knowing what is to come, we are issuing bonds that this TIF revenue is going to be allocated to, and these bonds have been talked about in City Council, and they're for the Civic Park, as you guys know, and we're actually nearing closing on those as well. So I know Dell mentioned to a couple of you about our AIM research that we did. So during the 2018 AIM conference last year, we at Reedy Financial Group jointly presented with Barnes & Thornburg on this topic of TIF impact. There have been a lot of misconception that every dollar the RDC receives is a dollar that would be split among other units of the overlapping units of government. And we found this not to be the case. So to calculate the true TIF impact on overlapping units, we analyzed every single parcel within 3 different counties, those counties being Wayne, Boone, and Jasper. And just why we chose those is we wanted to look at a varying level of circuit breaker, whether it's high, medium, or low. And we come up with the most accurate impact report possible through that research. We put in over 100 hours per county on that. So then in an effort to save time and money for our RDC clients, we've created a process based off that in-depth analysis to kind of create an estimation that still goes off of the data that we put together to extrapolate what your impact would be based on the level of circuit breaker environment that you're in. So as I talked about, circuit breaker environment, why we chose a high, medium, low, it really drives why or how much of an impact you have. So level of TIF impact is directly correlated to the level of circuit breaker environment where the TIF is located. The higher the circuit breaker, the higher the impact is to the overlapping units. You'll see that little box with the line, that's pointing to Dearborn County. So Dearborn County ranks 51st out of 92 counties, so relatively low as compared to the rest of the state of Indiana, which is pretty good. You guys are less than 5%. So it's a good area to be in, which means that your TIF impact will be low. So this really gets down to, this is the biggest slide on this presentation. It's going to have the most information. So this really shows the impact to all overlapping units, and kind of this in the next slide we'll talk about your TIF margin, which is a concept we kind of coined last year. But you'll see that the Lawrenceburg Community School Corporation, and I want to clarify here, these numbers are not additional revenue that these units would realize. It's more less circuit breaker loss that they would receive. Basically just means that, you know, if you guys are really, or I guess if you guys know too much about the circuit breaker laws that were passed, basically caps the amount that people can be taxed. Because of that, there's any tax rate above those amounts is basically creating circuit breaker. And this isn't additional revenue we would receive, it's just less circuit breaker loss that we would receive, okay? So you'll see that the impact to Lawrenceburg Community Schools is $28,582. Of the total impact, that's 46%. As you compare that to their actual budget, that's 0.12% of their budget for this year. Dearborn County next with 0.06 of their budget, 27% of the total impact. Lawrenceburg Civil City follows next with 20% of the impact and 0.13 of their budget. Then Lawrenceburg Public Library, 1879 is their total circuit breaker impact, or 3% of the total impact, or 0.07 of their budget. And then Dearborn County Solid Waste has an impact of 1151, or 1.88 of the total impact, and 0.12 of their total budget. And then finally, Lawrenceburg Township has an impact of a whopping $237 in circuit breaker, which is 0.39% of the total impact and 0.2 of their total budget. So what this means, the total impact to the overlapping units is combined $61,071. So that is the amount of circuit breaker that they would receive if we released all of the TIF AV. Alternatively, because we have the TIF AV and we have the Redevelopment Commission established, you guys are able to receive, this is last year's collection numbers, you guys are able to receive $358,015 in revenue. So obviously there's a big correlation. And when we really went down into, okay, where's this big difference? We coined this Tif Margin. So basically what Tif Margin is states that it's additional revenue that is collected per every dollar to the RDC. So basically, and as you see here, 83 cents is your guys' RDC TIF margin. So every single dollar that the RDC receives, if we were to release all the AV in the TIF, all the overlapping units would split 17 cents. 83 cents is the amount that is created because the redevelopment is established and because the TIF is established. So, and these points are saying exactly what I just said. Tiff margin is additional revenue per dollar collected in the RDC. That would be forgone if the RDC did not exist. So if the RDC didn't exist, 83 cents of every dollar you guys receive would be gone. So $358,015 or $15 worth of revenue is collected to the RDC due to this RDC being established. And without the RDC, the same assessed value would only yield $61,071 worth of revenue. So that's one huge benefit. You guys are being able to utilize this money where it would not necessarily be created if you guys weren't here. Also, another big benefit, I know, like I said, TIF is our main priority right here, is going towards the civic park. So that's another huge benefit that's impacting the community that you guys are putting these TIF dollars for. And that's the presentation in a nutshell. So, like I said, if anyone has any questions, I do have my cards. You guys have my contact information if anyone needs any additional questions after this. But does anyone have anything for me? Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
The income, the revenue,
Mm-hmm.
is that primarily the hotel?
That was mainly
Convention
the TIF. It's very new and very young. So I know based off projections this year, I think we almost double revenue this year because, like I said, the assessed value is only going to continue to grow. So.
You got 17 cents and 83 cents.
Yep.
17 goes to
The
one
5 different
unit,
units. Yep.
and the TIF gets the 83.
Mm-hmm.
If we did away with the TIF, where would that 83 cents go? Can you be more specific?
Yeah.
to that?
The 83 cents would would go back to circuit breaker for those units. Those units circuit breaker would increase by that amount for every dollar.
I guess what I'm asking more is it going to the county and tax? I mean, that's all tax money, right? If we don't have TIF, then that's called tax money.
Mm-hmm.
So that 83 cents in, let's talk tax money,
Mm-hmm.
does the county have to do without? Does the hospitals have to do without? It's gotta go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't disappear.
So it's based off of your percentage of tax rate. So let's say a single parcel, if if the city of Lawrenceburg makes up 50% of the tax rate for that parcel, then 50% of that circuit breaker would go towards the city, and then they'd allocate it based on the percentage of tax rate. And like I said, this is not additional revenue. It would just be more circuit breaker they'd be receiving, because you as a taxpayer in your home, you can't pay more than 1%. So any amount that's above $1, so if your tax rate's 3.2, 2.2 of that is going to circuit breaker for your parcel.
In the TIF area,
Mm-hmm.
it's my understanding that the TIF area is much bigger than Argosy or Hollywood. There's other parcels within the TIF area.
Correct. Yes.
All right, my question is, in the TIF area, if the city of Lawrenceburg owns a large percentage of that, how does that affect the money received TIF area?
So it's like I said, it's based off the percentage of the tax rate that's allocated to the separate units. So the county has a tax rate, the library has a tax rate, the city has a tax rate, the school corporation has a tax rate. That's how it's split up. Regardless of who owns the property, it goes back to what the tax rate is and what the percentage of tax rate is.
But if the city does not pay taxes,
Correct?
doesn't that affect the amount of revenue paid into the TIF area, Mark?
Correct, which is why it's more beneficial for those parcels that the city does own to not be within the TIF allocation area. You guys good? All right, like I said, any other questions? You guys have my contact information.
Hey,
so
Matt,
don't hesitate.
I do have a question. I
Yep.
apologize if it's already been asked.
Dell.
I was doing
I tell you what.
secretarial duties. Just very generally, without
Yep.
getting into the weeds,
Mm-hmm.
what are the protections for the school districts, especially now that legislation has changed a couple of times, especially in regard to the capital funds that schools experience. It's my understanding that kind of the perception that schools are hit really hard by TIF just isn't the case anymore. And could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I discussed that a little bit. But basically, the legislation you're talking about is all the school funding has gone through is basically through the max levy process now, and the state funds it. So TIF really doesn't have, at this point in time, very little, if any, impact on school corporations. Like I said, it's really just a circuit breaker. It comes down to circuit breaker impact. That's all it is. It's not an additional revenue that they would receive if the TIF AV was released. It would drive down tax rates eventually, but like I said, the main benefit is it being in the RDC to help continue to grow this AV. So when we get to the end of this ride, so actually you guys are issuing the first bonds that is, TIF is allocated to. So that's going to start the clock of the 25 years. After that 25-year time, hopefully we build up enough assessed value that when we release all this assessed value, it's going to drive down the tax rates to the point where we can have additional revenue because we are getting out of the circuit breaker environment. But the circuit breaker law really just kind of inhibited us and created this whole world that we live in now. So
awesome, thank you. And as a gaming host community, we provide additional partnerships with the school districts, and that offsets any negative TIF implications.
And that's the biggest thing we see with some of our other clients that don't have that flexibility, and they don't have such a good relationship with their school corporation where they're always battling, and it's just it's a mess. So
we have a great relationship with our schools here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt.
I guess
there are extra copies. I tried to hand out copies to everyone, but there are some extras by the door.
Looks like I didn't need to be plugged in at all.
Huh?
It looks like I didn't need to be plugged in the first place.
Hey, just following instructions via phone.
I'm shocked you guys got it to work.
I don't know how it's working either because it's still up.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Old business, firehouse agreement?
Your Honor, if it pleases the commission, I had the opportunity to draft all of the discussion that we had last time. At the last meeting, again, was terrific. Everyone kind of saw the write-up in the Eagle and the write-up in the Register. Just having that discussion in a public meeting had its challenges, but I thought it was great to do that. At this point, I've drafted just my summary of everything that happened. I've gotten that to Attorney Anthony Smart and Bob and Mike. I would move that we table this matter for today to give us some additional time to work through some of the changes that they would like to see. And then once we have a document that both sides want to present to the commission, then I'd say it'd be more appropriate to bring it up at that point. But obviously Bob and Mike are here and they're free to say whatever they like about the agreement. But I think we're in a great place, and I'm very happy about where we are right now.
Definitely in agreement with what Dell just said. I think we're very close, and there's just some small little details, and I think we can work those out together in the next coming days. Then it would be up to this board, or if we're going to do a special meeting, or if you're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks, if you're doing 2 a month. But I would prefer not to wait an entire month. So
we would too, yeah.
Yeah, the board would prefer not to wait an entire month, so it would behoove you guys to get it accomplished, and then we can call a work session and vote on it. Okay?
I think we can get it done this week, hopefully. So
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So just a motion to table, Your Honor.
We need a
If it's on the agenda.
table.
I'll motion to table.
And I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Tabled.
Thank you, sir.
Row house agreement?
Your Honor, if it pleases the commission, I would make that same motion. We've been provided before the meeting through Mr. Stroud's attorney, and Mr. Stroud's present in the audience today. Some bullet points. He's given us some bullet points just now before the meeting. While these are very kind of early big picture discussions, they are very encouraging, and they are, in my interpretation, very much along the lines with what we want to achieve at that property. So I would say we just need to have some more discussions before we're ready to have a presentation to the commission. But again, Mr. Stroud is here, and he's free to make any comments he'd like.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I was very encouraged with the last meeting. After the meeting, Dell basically sent us an email, and he had some great points. I thought that we were actually closer than I thought we were going to be. We did respond with a few small bullet points, and there was only a few small changes that we felt really needed to be addressed and changed. And if I could just, I understand about tabling and all that, but if I could just maybe, to speed things up, get a little clarification on each and individual one. That way, I'm not wasting any time. We're not wasting any more attorney time on either side to get this rectified. If you don't mind, if we could just take a few minutes and go through, I would, that way I know what general direction I'm going to go in. Is that reasonable?
Well, Mr. Stroud, and to be fair, so, without going into this too deeply, but also understanding that the public's here and the public's watching on YouTube, we have bullet points. Generally, here's what we'd like to see at the property. If we can have some more specific information, we'd love to entertain it. So what I've done is we had some bullet points that went back and forth between myself and Mr. Stroud's attorney, Mr. Smart. But what I've requested is, before we could even consider a proposal like this and then move to kind of where we were last meeting with the Firehouse group, we're going to need much more specific details. So again, you're free to make any statements you like, but the board's not going to make any commentary or make any decisions or promises based on this presentation.
I understand that.
Thank you.
I guess the big thing is the last kind of thing that was, the first thing that was pitched was your protections. We've talked about this many times. We've talked about my intentions to condo each and every one of these units and how that process works. That process could take 4 to 5 months to get us through documentation approved by the state. Along the way, there's a lot of money and time and effort to be done. So it goes along with construction. So when the CO hits, that's when our condo docs and everything are there. So I think from what Dell has pitched in the beginning, or the board, wherever that comes from, it seems to me you guys want to control the restaurant portion of the business and be in control of that deed. I'm perfectly good with that. The only thing in my response was that's 4 to 5 months down the road after construction starts. Can we do some kind of interim deal, such as a lease back to you guys, where you guys control the unit through a lease? You guys lease the unit, it's totally yours, but we can start construction. I'm not gonna go get new engineering estimates, put all this together without some kind of nod that we're gonna move forward. We're talking about a lot of money. We already have one engineer's bid. It's your engineer's bid. We already have projected drawings of what we want and 2 different types of fixes. So all that seems to be in the works. The little minor details that we seem to be off, in my mind, are very minute. Landscaping plan in the back. How high do we need the wall? How high is the retaining wall? Things like that. It seems like we should be able to set a budget on that, and then either I stick with the number, we cap the number, or it adjusts. I came to you guys in the beginning asking for a drop dead number. I ate the rest. Now it seems like we're kind of inching up and going for engineered estimates instead of general contractor estimates. There seems to be a lot more involved on my end. So I'm just kind of wanting a little direction on those sort of things.
Yeah, and what I would say is, for you to get to the point where, and look, anything's possible, anything's on the table. We want to develop this property, and we're excited anytime someone also wants to achieve that same goal. But to get from where you are now to where we got to with the Firehouse Group, we have to have more specific details on the project. We have to have, and they don't need to be stamped final plans, but they have to be plans, design, build for the property with estimates, so we know exactly how much it will cost. We need a business plan for whatever business that you intend to put in there. So and I sent all that to your attorney.
Right.
So we cannot make promises or commitments that would not be prudent for the board to make any promises. And that's kind of, I understand your position too, and the Rezo Group was in that same position. But
Well, they're not exactly in the same position.
well, no, they're in the position where they wanted some assurances before they made additional investments, but they had made investments before we got to the point where we could put a deal together. So, it's not, the best way to look at it is this is not a joint venture. If you have a proposal for property, then that's kind of your responsibility to put that together.
But what you're saying is you're not accepting what I'm offering.
That's not what we're saying.
No, excuse me just a minute.
Sure.
What we want, Del, these folks up here are lay people, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What we want, Tony, is a defined number, and I'm sure you can come up with this, of how much are nails going to cost, how much are boards going to cost, how much are steel going to cost. So that adds up to whatever number you're proposing.
So you want a breakdown.
I'm not going to broadcast that, okay? We want to know, is it going to add up to that number? Okay? That's what this group wants to know.
Right. And that's what I've been saying all along. It's never going to add up to this number because I'm only asking you guys for a third of what this project is going to cost me.
What we're asking for is what we understood the proposal to be was to reconstruct the wall.
Correct.
And north and south, I guess, is included in that. Okay?
In the new proposal, yes. North-south.
Okay,
yes,
north-south. Get the wall reconstructed and get it prepared for reconstruction of the inside.
Correct.
Okay? That's what we're asking for. How much is that going to cost? We want to know, is it going to cost 47 cents for the brick, or is it going to cost $4.27?
So you want a breakdown of each material that goes back in the job.
If you can do that.
Okay, that's...
All right, that's what we want. And then I think we want an assurance of some sort, and this is for the attorneys to work out.
Okay. Now, the assurances...
Now, wait just a minute, I'm not finished. The assurance of some sort, financial assurance.
Okay.
Okay, like 3 years of financial or 4 years of financial, whatever.
It's from the parent company. You're fine with that, not the new LLC.
Not personal. Okay. And this will not be disclosed in public.
Okay.
And then we want an assurance of what type of restaurant, maybe a business plan for the restaurant that you're proposing for the first floor.
Okay, that's where I'm a little confused because you guys were asking me to take the deed back to the restaurant and you guys controlled the restaurant. So are you controlling the restaurant or am I controlling the restaurant? I'm just going off of what...
Well, I think we want, until we turn the building over to you, we want to see that it's the type restaurant that we would want to have next to our park.
Okay, no, but if I'm turning the restaurant...
I don't care if they're going to sell hot dogs or hot peppers.
No, I understand that.
We want to know what type of restaurant. Is it a family restaurant?
Right.
Is it a strip club? Okay. That's what we want to know.
My point was, if I don't own that unit, you guys do. How am I?
So you want us to market the bottom for you? Is that?
No, that was what you guys came to me. You guys came to me saying, split out that unit and deed it to you. You guys, that way you control it all. I manage it when it's all built and done and whoever.
So you want us to get the restaurateur?
No,
Okay.
I want to do it, but what you guys proposed to me in the last meeting was you guys were taking the unit.
No, I think what we proposed in the last meeting was we want to decide what type of restaurant is in there.
Okay. Well, off of the email, this is what I interpret, and you can feel free to read it, but it just basically says Stroud manages the restaurant unit, pays expenses, and keeps any rent. But you guys are the ones that own the unit and control what goes in there, what colors, how it's built out. Now, if that's changed,
Tony, these are ideas. You
Okay.
need to make a proposal. This is just trying to help you to determine what a proposal could be. Your proposal can be whatever you like.
Okay.
So you need to make a proposal to us with all the things that Chairman Davis stated, present it to us, then we can take a look at it. So right now, as we sit here today, we don't have any of that.
Okay, so none of this. All right.
And personally, the only color I would not prefer is pink. Okay.
Well, I can't. I understand.
Yeah,
I
okay.
understand. And I can handle it from start to finish. I'm just trying to untie my hands and understand exactly what it is.
We don't want to tie your hands,
Okay.
but we want to know that this is an appropriate restaurant for that park setting.
Okay, so basically, the control that you want, you just want to see the business plan up front.
Yes, sir.
So that covers your control issue as far as
Maybe.
maybe.
Make a proposal and we'll take a look at it. We can't make promises.
We can't make promises until we see it.
Asking a lawyer's statement, or is this you being a redevelopment person?
Now, I'm telling you that we can't make a promise to someone at
I'm
a
sitting
public
here
meeting.
listening to this, that, and I wanna know if these guys are making these decisions, or if the decision's coming down here, because this is confusing. 6 months ago, this guy said, sell the building and get out of his way.
That's
He
not
had
true.
another-
That's not true. He wants
Absolutely
$625,000, Paul, in the building. So that's not giving the building and get out of the way.
He said,
That's true. Do you want to
he
read his
had a
proposal?
statement for money, and he said, give me this building and get out of my way.
That's not
Let me
true,
do
though.
my statement.
But that's not true. He wants a lot of money, and we have
He
to be
wants
careful.
a lot of money.
And we have to
knew
be
that
careful.
Going in. All I want out of you is lawyer business.
Okay, this is lawyer
I don't want
business.
you saying, we make these decisions, because these guys right here don't have a clue what decision that this guy
We
here's
haven't made
had
a
to deal
decision.
with.
My point tonight is we're not making any decisions, and we can't do anything that would bind the commission. That is lawyer business. That's my only business, is to make sure we're not, we have to make it very clear that we're not entering into an agreement or a contract tonight.
I would much rather this man put a proposal amongst these guys and you say, here's what's wrong with this proposal, than I would come back 2 weeks later and say, we're close. These guys don't know what the hang-up is or anything.
That's not true.
Well, it is true. That's what I'm sensing. The newspaper article said that we've been haggling ever since this started. We ain't been haggling. This has been a roadblock from day one.
That's not true,
And
Paul, and
I
that's
feel
not
like
fair.
it's a roadblock now.
That's not true.
Well, what this board wants, and I've talked to every individual, okay?
Okay.
We want to break down up the costs.
Okay. I
Okay.
got that.
All right. We want, we would like to see a business plan for the restaurant.
Okay.
What type of restaurant?
We already have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we need to see.
Okay.
And as far as colors, I just don't want pink.
We don't want to be in the restaurant business.
No, and we don't want to be in the restaurant
Okay.
business.
Well, I was just I was a little confused when I got that you guys were taking the unit as.
And we'd like to see what your proposal is for that, I guess it's the west wall, what it is. If you're
We
gonna
are-
open it completely up, or you're
Yeah.
gonna have windows and one little door, or?
You guys already have that. That's your engineer did the drawing and the draft, and then we've worked on one. Our big thing there is what the historical commission is going to allow. It's
Exactly.
going to be somewhere between garage doors and glass opening full. I don't think they're going to allow full. We've talked about the garage doors and the liquor permit and how much open they're going to be. We just don't know yet. But we know what we want the overall look like. We just don't know how much square footage of glass compared to brick, so there is going to be some fluctuation of change. And with the engineer's estimate,
All of us have different ideas of what it's gonna look like.
Right.
And we don't know. Put a wish together, and then we'll go through the Landmark Association.
okay. Okay,
Wish it were going to look like,
right, like my
State
original proposal, correct. And then we got the engineer drawing back with the doors, and it's gonna be somewhere in the cross in between. So I'll put those things together, but as far as, so the assurances on my performance, are you guys still okay with controlling the lease on the restaurant, deeding the rest of the stuff back? Was that an issue?
Tony, we're not gonna.
I know,
make
but
any-
I'm getting
we
very
can't enter
conflicting
into a
things.
contract. Well, you just need to make a proposal to us.
I have.
I mean, is that fair?
I have, and your bullet points, or the board's bullet points back to me, I went directly off of what I got from you. And I like those. Don't get me wrong, what I'm getting from you is.
We can move forward and you can submit a formal proposal, and it can be the way that we've discussed informally, very generally, or it can be any way that you want it to be. You know, we all want to move forward and get to a proposal, but we're not there yet. So if you say, you know, will you guys commit to certain assurances, we shouldn't do that. That's not prudent.
Okay. All right.
here's the assurance that we want. We want an attractive building next to the park.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I like that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, I just, we're not that far away. One of the basics that we asked for, we are into the details of a potential agreement, and it is complex.
It's very complex.
It's,
I agree.
we can articulate things that are important to us, and getting those I's dotted and T's crossed are a little more difficult than maybe some of us anticipated. I think in general, conceptually, we're all leaning the same way. And when we looked at your stuff and the stuff that we talked about, it's like, okay, we still need to have, a business plan for the restaurateur.
Okay.
I understand there's a little bit of misunderstanding
Right.
there, but that's what
I'll clear
we
that up.
figured that would be a basic
Yeah.
component of
Sure.
what we would need to proceed before we could do anything.
Okay.
We wanted some security, financial security.
Sure.
Again, as Dale mentioned, or the
I'm
chairman mentioned,
perfectly
that
fine
will
with
be
that. Yeah.
a private issue. And what was the third?
The engineer's estimate.
Engineer's estimate and/or contractor's estimate, something that gives us some assurity that we know going in that these numbers are valued, and what may be secondhand to you needs to be firsthand to
Right.
us.
Could-
And so those three components alone, I would have expected that we needed before we could do
Okay.
this kind of stuff. And there are some other details
Okay.
that we need, that we can take, we can work through. But I just, this is a
This
healthy
one's very complicated.
process, and it's a little more complicated because
Structural issues.
it's structural issues, and it's a large amount of money, and we're separating ourselves from that and from a control standpoint. And I don't mean to say that government's smart and can control everything, but if we're going to dish out $600 and some $1,000 and a couple pieces of property, we need to be really careful about how we do that. And I'm sorry that is a little frustrating for some, but
no,
I think it's important to the citizens of Lawrenceburg that we take those steps.
Is it possible, since the city has done all the engineering, to get the city's engineer to get the engineering estimates? Is that reasonable to ask? I mean, I'll give you my general contract bid, but if you guys want those engineering estimates,
I think what you provide is where we should start. I mean, if, you know, as detailed, I mean.
Okay, so you'll be fine with my
I would believe
general
we would,
contract.
is, you know,
Okay.
I haven't seen them, but I would assume that
Okay.
they could be,
All right, you have to
At
dig
least-
6 holes, cost you $5 a hole.
Right.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
$30.
I mean,
Yeah,
and I think originally I sent you a copy of the Reso format.
Correct.
Without the numbers.
That's
If
correct.
That format
Yes, is what you want.
it would be the expectation so
Okay.
that we can, again, you know.
Okay.
This is,
So we're not gonna need engineering estimates, just my estimates, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's more than fair.
Okay.
That's more than fair.
Okay.
Anything else?
no, I think so. I don't want to lose track of progress that we are making and the assurances that we are protecting our investments.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and we
it's-
can't apologize for being smart
No.
with these opportunities, for doing the right things. And Mr. Seymour, I understand. I mean, you're motivated to move forward quickly, and I appreciate that viewpoint, and I share that viewpoint. But there's some steps that need to be taken. I think we moved pretty quickly with the firehouse, and you know, it's because of you and council and redevelopment and the Board of Works and the entire city that this park exists, that the apartments are going to exist. So all of our opportunities are a joint effort. Every person in this room, from Main Street to Tom Schneider and everyone who's sitting in here, has caused this to be a good problem where we can be selective, we can make the right deals, the right decisions, and that is my job, and that's what I'll always do. As far as decisions, that's never up to me. That's up to these guys.
Okay. My homework will be done in the next several days, and
Okay.
we'll get it submitted to you. And
Yep,
we'll go
and
from
if we are ready to roll, we can call a work session
Okay.
and take a vote.
Okay,
You can
great.
start digging the $5 holes.
That'd probably be more like 7. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Anthony. Any other old business? I'd like to have a motion to approve the claims if everyone's had a chance to review them.
I'll make a motion, we approve the claims.
Moved? Did I
Mr.
get a
Chairman,
second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
I just would like to point out that we did have the Main Street update on there as a
Oh, I forgot
standard
that.
agenda
I'm
item. If there
sorry.
are any questions
I'm sorry.
and/or.
Ellie, I'll abstain from that vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Main Street update?
You're forgiven. Yeah. I have nothing specific. I just, you know, it's a program that we help facilitate. If there's any questions or any feedback, I believe Pat's in attendance as well. So otherwise, it's just there
All right,
to remind us.
we still have a motion and a second to approve the claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Roll call,
Record.
please.
Member Randy Abner.
Yes.
Member Kevin Schaefer.
Abstain.
Member Owen Cross.
Yes.
Member Paul Seymour Sr.
Yes.
3 to 1, approved. Any comments from the audience?
Just real quick, positive. You know, it's, look, I understand, everybody's scared to death of this. We got 2 old buildings, and we all just did a nice park, and we're wanting to see them work. But for the confusing part on me is I think we got two good people here, and I think they're gonna give us a good product. I know they are. We took the shopping center over there, and I was skeptical of that. We gave that guy $860,000, and boy, it took us about a month and a half to do that deal. It wasn't that complicated, guys. We didn't ask for all the bull crap we're asking for now. What we did do was we gave up the money in a timely fashion, which is, by the way, I don't think we gave him 1 red cent yet.
No.
But we had our markers to where when he gets something done, he's gonna get his money. Now, no matter how much thinking that gets done here in the next 2 weeks and how much you guys study this and how much he puts in an effort and Mr. Rizzo puts in an effort and puts all this magical genius together, this is still a risky project. But if you structure the money right, that risk is brought down just like the shopping center. So my only point is you got a lot of work done over there and it was all good. We're gonna owe that man 860 grand here in a short amount of time, I think. But you got all that work without one of these conversations going on.
Well, Mr. Seymour.
So all I'm asking you to do is we've been a year. We missed out on this year having these things done. So I'm just asking. I know it's government, but here's the thing, guys. I'm the government. We're the government. I don't work like this. None of us should work like this. We got to do better than this. This just is taking way too damn long.
I agree with the last statement, but Paul, we have bullet points in here. When he reaches a certain point, he gets money.
Well,
But we're telling him what to do with his money.
No, we're not. We're not. If he proposed a restaurant, we want to know that it's a family-type restaurant next to the park and not something other than that.
I agree with that.
Okay, that's all we want.
And just to be fair, so everyone knows it, and maybe, you know, you're not in redevelopment, so maybe you're not privy to this. Tell Mr. Stroud, and this is in the slide on Mr. Stroud, he's never given us anything. He's never given us designs or engineered drawings or cost estimates or financial information or a business plan. He's never given us anything other than a half sheet of paper on Microsoft Word. We cannot strike a deal that way. It's just not fair to the city. It's not fair to redevelopment. Now, I don't doubt that he will eventually get to the point where he presents us all of that data that we need, but we can't move forward without that data, and he just hasn't given it to us. So what else can we do? We don't have a choice.
Mr. Hutchins?
Thank you, Mel. Dennis Hutchins, 291 East Center Street. There's a couple of things that came up earlier in the TIF presentation, and I, for one, as a citizen, enjoyed it very much. And I thought that guy probably gave the best presentation I've seen in quite a while, and I appreciate the handout. But Tim had asked a question about where the TIF was and stuff, so I just wanted to tell you, in your presentation, it's all the blacked out areas. So that's exactly where it is. The other thing is I wanted to point out that he didn't, unless he did and I didn't hear it, I used to ask myself, and Kelly and I, and we went to these classes and different things, and Paul was there, and TIF money is generated by new taxes, basically. And here's the tricky part of the TIF. If you have an existing building, let's say the firehouse has been open, for example, right now, and it's struggling and it's not doing well, and the city bought it from the owner, and then the city puts all the money in it that they're going to do now, right? That means that that firehouse was paying taxes at some level before the city bought it, if it was actively still in business. That's the key to this. So any business that's actively still in business and the city comes in and swallows it into a TIF situation, the TIF dollars that go forward are only the new taxes. That's very important that you get your arms around that. Because, I'll give you an example, Greendale has had an art form in setting up TIFs for many, many, many years and operating because they don't have the casino dollars that we have. So they actually lived off of TIF. And Al Abden has made a science out of it. But he would tell you as well, it's only the new dollars that's generated from the TIF that the school district's not getting a piece of or whatever. So it's not the end of the world. And as Del pointed out, the school district does very well from this council and past councils. So thank you for your time.
Any other comments?
Tom Schneider, High Street. I would like to know because I sat last time through all these discussions that went back and forth. If the city is going to control a part of this for X years or 1 year or whatever, what's gonna happen with the taxes? In the contract with Rizzo's, they agreed to pay the taxes. Is that going to be in the contract? Okay, and the same thing goes in the other case, okay? Tim said it right. If the city owns all the property, there's no taxes. So what is it?
I would say, I mean, we're gonna propose that, and it's called a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, so you figure out what the taxes would be, and then they pay it anyway. I'd say that would be a part of any agreement. And on the other side, we're working to not own these properties. I mean, don't get us wrong, we don't wanna own these properties. That includes the Davis properties and these properties. We got involved with them to improve them, have some say in where they're headed, and then ship them off, to school on the first day in a better place than when we got them. That's where government can do.
The problem is that the county is maximizing everybody's taxes. They're going up the maximum, okay? And the more property that the city owns that cannot be taxed, okay, you're gonna, now, there's $1 million worth of property that you're gonna turn over to redevelopment, okay? So that is tax money that's not, it's not coming to the county or to the city.
Mr. Snyder, I think when you see the final agreements with the properties that we're talking about, you will see that there will be an assessment done by the county, and those taxes will be paid some form or another from the proposed owners, even though they're not completely owned yet by those owners. We're doing land contracts, okay? So you will see some taxes, or the taxes, in some form in that contract going to where they're supposed to go.
Okay.
That's the way we're proposing the contract.
Okay, good.
Any other comments?
I just want to reiterate one thing, and I think this is a very important issue, and that's why from day one we said we wanted to make sure that we paid the taxes on this property. And I want to make sure that's clear. And one of the only issues we're having is, and it's very minor, it's not whether we're going to pay taxes or not, it's how they're going to be paid. You know, there's just two different opinions on how they're going to get paid. So we are going to pay taxes.
I understand.
So I just want to make that clear.
Any other comments? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a Main Street update?
Second?
I'll second.
You second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to adjourn.
Everybody's looking at each other. Main Street update. Main Street update.
Main Street update, Mr. Messmore?
No, as first, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I've been asked a question. Although the meeting has been adjourned, I was just going to restate that we put the Main Street update on the agenda on a monthly basis because that's one of our programs in case there are any questions. And Pat is here, Mrs. Kreider is here in case there are any questions. Just to be clear, nobody had any, but I wanted to make sure that
Okay. All right.
that was not overlooked.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Where you running to?